I am the legitimate daughter of the Grand Tutor's mansion, the sole heir holding the token for 100,000 iron cavalry. Yet in his eyes I was merely a pawn he could manipulate at will. So the vows he made to me on our wedding night, the tenderness with which he personally brewed medicine for me over the years, the deep affection in his eyes when he returned from battle, all of it was a carefully woven lie. That bowl of health soup I drank for 5 whole years turned out to be a sterilization drug that would leave me childless. And in the distant northern frontier, my husband already had a 5-year-old son. When I opened the love letter hidden in the secret compartment on a snowy night and read, "My son Yun Zhao is already 5 years old," my heart felt like it had been ripped out. 5 years exactly how long I had been married to him. That night, I didn't cry. I just quietly watched the man sleeping in the bed, and in my heart, I cut away all 5 years of our affection, one slice at a time. "Since you want my life, then I will take your future, your glory, your everything. Xiao Muliang, this game has only just begun. Please make sure you are in a comfortable position. We're about to start the main story." Reply in the comments section to let us know which city you are reading our story in. The day Xiao Muliang returned to the capital with his army, the first snow of winter began to fall. I stood before the general's mansion, dressed in a snow-white fox fur coat, letting the fine snowflakes fall on my shoulders. In the distance, the figure I once knew so well was striding through the snow towards me. He was clad in dark armor, his brows and eyes etched with the frost of the borderlands. But the moment he saw me, the ice and snow in his eyes melted away, leaving only tender warmth. Yanqing. He dismounted, took 2 steps and then 3 to reach me, pulling me into his embrace. The chill from his body mixed with a faint scent of blood, a scent most familiar to me over the past 5 years. "Welcome home, General." I brushed the snow off his shoulders, my smile as gentle as ever. Back in the inner chamber, I attended to him as usual, helping him remove his armor and change. The heavy armor was taken off piece by piece, revealing the worn inner garment beneath. As I reached for new clothes, he fumbled for something in his embrace, his movements a little urgent. Perhaps from exhaustion, he didn't hold it steady. A letter slipped from his embrace and fell silently onto the thick carpet. I bent down to pick it up. The envelope had no name, only sealed with wax. "Make sure to keep the general's letter home safe." I handed it to him with a smile. When he took the letter, his expression was unnatural for a moment. He casually stuffed it into a hidden compartment on the side, then held my hand, a trace of apology in his tone. "It is all just trivial matters with my comrades in the army. Sorry you had to see that. Yanqing, it has been hard on you all these years." I shook my head and served him the hot tea that had been kept warm at night. He held me and recounted the bitter cold of the border and the perils of war. I listened quietly, just like every day for the past 5 years, being his most faithful listener, until he fell into a deep sleep, his breathing even. But I had no desire to sleep anymore. That letter was like a thorn stuck in my heart. My woman's intuition told me that was no ordinary letter. I quietly got up, walked to the hidden compartment by the desk, and took out the letter. Under the candlelight, I looked at the familiar wax seal, hesitated for a long time, and finally picked it open gently with my fingernail. The letter unfolded, and Xiao Muliang's strong and vigorous handwriting came into view. However, the opening salutation made me feel as if I had plunged into an ice cave. "Wanner, hope you are well. Seeing these words is like seeing you. Wanner, not me. My name is Gu Yanqing." My hands started to tremble uncontrollably. Almost unable to hold that thin piece of paper, I forced myself to read on. "The northern lands are bitterly cold. Don't let Yun Zhao catch a chill. He is already 5, a naughty age, so it must be hard on you. When this war is over, I will ask His Majesty for a favor to bring you, mother and son, into the capital and give him a legitimate status. You have been wronged all these years. My son Yun Zhao, 5 years old." Every single word was like a red-hot branding iron, searing itself cruelly into my heart. My mind went buzz and then completely blank. 5 years old, I and Xiao Muliang have been married for exactly 5 years. I suddenly remembered, not long after we married, he said my body was weak and specially requested a prescription from the palace to help me recuperate. For 5 years he would bring me a bowl of pitch-black medicinal soup almost every day with his own hands, and watch me drink it. He said, "Once my body has recovered, we would have a child." I had always thought that was his deep-seated love and care for me. Only at this moment did I understand that bowl of medicinal soup called recuperation was actually a sterilization medicine to cut off my path to having children. It wasn't that he didn't want children, he just didn't want the children I bore for him. Because in the distant northern frontier he already had another family, a gentle woman, and a son who was already 5 years old. In order not to threaten that child's status, he actually made me drink sterilization medicine for 5 years. The candlelight flickered, reflecting my face, ashen as paper. I looked at the man sleeping soundly on the bed. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was on guard against something even in his dreams. This face I had loved for 5 years now looked so unfamiliar and menacing. So this seemingly loving marriage was just a meticulously planned scam from beginning to end. I, Gu Yanqing, the dignified, legitimate daughter of the Grand Tutor's manor, was nothing but a pawn in his eyes, one that could provide him with power and status, and be played with in the palm of his hand. A sharp, stabbing pain came from my heart, as if someone had brutally gouged it open with a knife and then sprinkled a handful of salt on it. I clutched my chest, but I couldn't make a sound, nor could I shed a single tear. There is no greater sorrow than a dead heart, so this is what that feels like. I carefully folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, used the candle flame to melt the sealing wax, meticulously restored it to its original state, and then gently placed it back in the secret compartment. After doing all this, I walked back to the bedside and quietly looked at Xiao Muliang, at this man whom I once thought I could entrust my whole life to. From tonight onwards, Xiao Muliang, between you and me, all ties are severed. Waking up the next day, Xiao Muliang saw my pale face and the faint dark circles under my eyes, his own eyes full of heartache. He caressed my cheek and asked softly, "Didn't sleep well last night. Did I wake you when I came back?" I lowered my eyelids, avoiding his affectionate gaze, my voice calm and unwavering. "Perhaps I've caught a bit of a chill." He immediately grew tense, reaching out to feel my forehead. "I told you your constitution was weak. It is cold now. I'll have the imperial physician take another look at you later and adjust the prescription." As he spoke, he got up and went to the small kitchen himself. Before long, he returned with a tray, on which sat a bowl of steaming black medicinal soup. That familiar, bitter taste with a hint of sweet fishiness instantly filled the air. "Come, Yanqing, drink your medicine." He sat on the edge of the bed, scooped up a spoonful, carefully blew on it, and brought it to my lips. This was his poisoned tenderness for 5 years. Day in and day out, it had never ceased. In the past, I always felt this was the most blissful thing in the world. My husband, a great general of illustrious military merit, was willing to cook for me, attentive to the smallest details. I had been moved by this countless times, feeling that with such a husband in this life, what more could one ask for? But now, looking at this bowl of medicine, I only felt my stomach churn violently. I turned my head, dodging the spoon he offered. "It is too hot. Let's leave it for now." My voice was as cold as ice. Xiao Muliang's movement froze, a flash of surprise in his eyes. For these 5 years, I had always been gentle and considerate towards him, never once defying him, let alone refusing the medicine he fed me by hand. "What is wrong?" He put down the bowl and reached out to touch me. "Are you not feeling well?" I threw off the quilt, got up and walked to the window and pushed it open. A gust of cold wind mixed with snowflakes instantly poured in, clearing my muddled head a bit. "It is just a bit stuffy. I want to get some air." He frowned, walked over to close the window, and casually draped a cloak over my shoulders. "Don't stand in the draft. Be careful you don't catch a cold." He picked up that bowl of medicine and handed it to me again. "Be good. Drink it while it is hot. This is for your own good." For my own good. I finally lifted my eyes to look straight into his and asked, word by word, "Are you sure, General, that this medicine is for my own good?" My gaze was too calm. So calm there wasn't a single ripple. Yet it made Xiao Muliang's heart inexplicably tighten. He looked at me, as if trying to find something on my face. But in the end, he found nothing. He smiled, trying to break the strange atmosphere. "Silly talk. Of course I am doing this for your own good. You and I, husband and wife, are one. If not for you, then for whom? Husband and wife are one, what ridiculous 4 words. I didn't say anything more and took the medicine bowl from his hand. Under his satisfied gaze, I slowly walked to a pot of orchids by the window. That was my favorite pot of Cymbidium sinense, and it was in full bloom in front of him. I slowly poured every last drop of the pitch-black medicinal liquid from the bowl into the flower pot. Yanqing. Yu Xiaomoliang's expression changed drastically. He shot to his feet, his voice laced with uncontrollable shock and fury. I threw down the empty bowl in my hand, and the sound of the shattering porcelain was exceptionally piercing in the silent room. I turned around and looked at him coldly. I've had enough of this poisoned tenderness. The loving scenes from the past 5 years flashed wildly through my mind at this moment on our wedding night. He held my hand and promised that in this life, I would be the only one, that he would never take a concubine. But at that time, his Wanner was perhaps already pregnant with his flesh and blood. The first time I had a miscarriage, he held me all night without sleep, blaming himself and saying it was all his fault for not taking good care of me. But was that bowl of fetus calming medicine already drugged back then? Every time he went on a military expedition, he would write letters back, every word and every sentence in them filled with his longing for me. But were the drafts of those letters all written for another woman first? Every bit of his concern, every bit of his affection, was like a poison-dipped knife, stabbing my soul until it was riddled with wounds. You know everything. Xiaomoliang looked at me, and after the initial shock in his eyes, a hint of relief slowly settled in. He didn't try to explain, nor did he deny it. He just looked at me in silence. This silence was a tacit admission, more hurtful than any words. So he had long grown tired, long grown weary of this charade. Perhaps he was even looking forward to the day I discovered the truth. My heart completely sank. Xiaomoliang. I spoke softly, my voice hoarse. You really have a way with things. My confrontation didn't cause any ripples in the general's mansion. Xiaomoliang remained silent for a whole day towards evening. He sent the butler to deliver a message saying that a banquet would be held in the main hall that night, inviting his parents, and that there were important matters to discuss. I sneered inwardly, knowing this banquet of hangmen was set up for me, and even more so to pave the way for his so-called son. I didn't refuse, still wearing a simple and elegant dress, with a light dusting of makeup on my face, showing no hint of any abnormality. When I walked into the main hall, Xiaomoliang and his parents were already seated. As soon as the mother-in-law, Qin Shi, saw me, she let out a cold and indifferent snort. Clearly, Xiaomoliang had already told them everything. Sit down. The father-in-law, Xiao Wei, once the Grand Marshal of the army, spoke in a deep voice, his authority undiminished. I sat down calmly. The dishes on the table were exquisite and abundant, but I had no appetite at all. Xiaomoliang served me a portion of food with chopsticks, his tone distant in a way I had never heard before. Yanqing, some things I had intended to tell you a few days later. Since you already know, let's get it all out in the open today. I didn't touch the chopsticks, just watched him quietly, waiting for him to continue. He took a deep breath, as if he had made a great resolution. Wanner has borne me a son, named Yun Zhao. That child is now 5 years old. My mother-in-law, Qin, immediately chimed in, her tone full of showing off and contempt for me, the official wife. That child Yun Zhao looks exactly like Mu Liang did as a child. He is both smart and sensible. When we old folks saw him, we couldn't help but adore him. Yes, Xiao Mu Liang looked at me. His eyes actually held a hint of pleading and charity. Yanqing, I know I've wronged you in this matter, but Yun Zhao is my eldest son, and the only bloodline of the Xiao family. I can't let him be left out in the world. The only bloodline. These 3 words struck my heart like a heavy hammer. So it turned out that when I drank that 5-year sterilization medicine, in their eyes, I had long been stripped of the qualification to bear children for the Xiao family. Watching the 3 of them sing the same tune, I only found it incredibly absurd and laughable. So, I finally spoke, my voice terrifyingly calm. What does the general intend to do? Xiao Muliang seemed not to have expected me to be so calm. He paused for a moment before continuing. I plan to bring Yun Zhao back to the residence, and to the public, We will claim he is the orphan of the general's deceased older brother. I finished his sentence for him. Unfortunately, the general is an only son. Where would an older brother come from? Only you all could come up with such a clumsy lie. A flash of embarrassment crossed Xiao Muliang's face, but it was quickly replaced by resolve. That is right. Then register him under your name and establish him as the heir of the general's manor. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, my laughter filled with endless desolation and mockery. What are you laughing at? My mother-in-law, Madame Qin, slammed the table and stood up, pointing at my nose and cursing. Gu Yangqing, don't be so ungrateful. Muliang letting you be Yun Zhao's legitimate mother is a great honor for you. You've been married into our Xiao family for 5 years and can't even lay a single egg. You should have been divorced and cast aside long ago. Now you get to have a son for free. What more could you be dissatisfied with, mother? Xiao Muliang rebuked her in a low voice, but he didn't refute her words. He turned to me, his tone softening slightly, yet it felt more like a condescending gift. Yangqing, I know your body is weak. It has been hard on you all these years. In the future, with Yun Zhao by our side to dote on, you can also relax a bit. Let's go back to living our good life like before. Okay. Living a good life. Making me raise the son of my own flesh and blood's murderer as my own. Making me watch with my own eyes as he takes away everything that should have belonged to my child. And I still have to greet him with a smile. What kind of humiliation is this? This blatant, devastating humiliation has utterly crushed the last shred of fantasy I had for this marriage. For this man, I looked at the 3 people before me, so entitled and even condescending as if giving alms. And the last trace of warmth in my heart vanished completely. I slowly stood up, my gaze calmly sweeping over each of them. I understand. I only said those 2 words, then turned around and, under their stunned gazes, walked step by step out of this main hall that disgusted and nauseated me. From behind me came the curses of my mother-in-law, Madame Qin. You ungrateful thing. Sooner or later I'll make Muliang divorce you. I did not turn back. Because from this moment on, it won't be him, Xiao Muliang, divorcing me. It will be me, Gu Yangqing, who will uproot your entire Xiao family. That night, I didn't sleep at all. When the sky turned fish-belly white, the hatred and grief in my heart had settled into a dead, silent sea of ice. Not another tear, not another sliver of hesitation. I calmly got up and did my makeup in front of the bronze mirror. The woman in the mirror had a pale face, but her eyes were startlingly bright, like 2 clusters of cold, ghostly flames. I didn't choose the gentle dresses I usually wore, but instead pulled out a set of black, tight-fitting attire from the bottom of my trunk. It was the only set of clothes my mother left me when I got married. She said that a daughter of the Gu family must never forget her integrity, no matter the time. Putting on the martial attire, I felt as if I had found my old self again, the me from before I was married. The Gu Yangqing who was well-versed in the arts of war, practiced in horse riding and archery, and praised by my father for having the talent of a great commander. Not this Lady Xiao, who has been trapped in the inner quarters, wasting away 5 years of her life. Without alerting any of the servants, I passed through corridor after corridor alone, and walked to the most remote corner of the general's mansion. There was a small, long-sealed door there. Pushing the door open, I found a deep and quiet path outside. Leading straight next door is where my real home is, the Grand Tutor's mansion of the State Protector. After I married Xiao Muliang, the Grand Tutor's mansion was sealed. Before my father passed away, he said that a woman follows her husband upon marriage, and the glory of the Grand Tutor's mansion would henceforth be tied to Xiao Muliang. How ridiculous. My father was astute his entire life, yet he was blind in this matter. He entrusted the Gu family's century-old foundation to an ungrateful wolf. Inside the Grand Tutor's mansion, it was dead silent, with only the wind blowing through the courtyard, rolling up a few withered leaves. I walked all the way to the Gu family ancestral hall in the deepest part of the mansion and pushed open the heavy door. Inside, the memorial tablets of the Gu family's ancestors from all generations were enshrined my great-grandfather, grandfather, and father. They were all Grand Tutors who once held the Tiger Tally and commanded the 3 armies, shedding their last drop of blood for this dynasty. I lit 3 sticks of incense and kowtowed 3 times heavily before the ancestral tablets. Ancestors above, your unworthy granddaughter Gu Yangqing returns to the clan today. Because Yanqing misjudged people and trusted the wrong person, the Giyu family has been disgraced, and the Grand Tutor's mansion has been tarnished. Today, Yanqing voluntarily requests to enforce the family law and cleanse the household. After speaking, I stood up and walked to the shrine where the ancestral tablets were enshrined and activated the mechanism my father had told me about. The shrine slowly moved aside, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. Inside the hidden compartment, a brocade box made of rosewood lay quietly. I reached out my slightly trembling hand and opened the brocade box. Inside the brocade box, a commander's seal, entirely carved from Kunshan black jade, lay quietly on bright yellow silk. Beside the commander's seal was a black iron tiger tally and a thick roster wrapped in oilcloth. Iron Guard Army Commander's Seal. Iron Guard Army Tiger Tally. Iron Guard Army General's Roster. This is the true foundation of the Giyu family. This is Gu Yanqing's greatest confidence. Xiao Mulian. Do you think the 100,000 Iron Guards you command are a gift from the Emperor? A reward for your military achievements? You are wrong. Those 100,000 troops are the blood, sweat, and tears of generations of my Gu family. A private army that only recognizes the commander's seal and not the imperial decree. My father gave me the commander's seal back then, asking me to pass it on to you, which was a sign of trust as well as a test for you. And you used it to pave a glorious and prosperous path for yourself and your illegitimate son. You think I, Gu Yangqing, am just a helpless woman of the inner court with no strength to even truss a chicken. You will soon find out just what kind of existence you've provoked. I gripped the commander's seal tightly in my hand, and its cold touch felt as if it was injecting a surge of power from my fingertips into my entire being. Holding the brocade box, I took one last look at the ancestral tablets in the shrine, then turned and strode out. When I stood in the sunlight again, I was no longer Xiao Muliang's wife. I am the sole master of the residence of the Grand Tutor, protector of the state Gu Yanqing. The first thing I did when I returned to the general's residence was to have my trusted maid, Qing He, leave with a personal jade pendant of mine to summon 3 people. Go to the Baikao Hall in the south of the city to find Uncle Chen. Go to the blacksmith's shop in the west of the city to find Uncle Li, and go to the horse farm in the north of the city to find Grandpa Zhang. Tell them, I instructed calmly. The daughter of an old friend requests their presence. Seeing the jade pendant is like seeing me in person. Although Qing He didn't know what I intended to do, seeing my solemn expression. She didn't dare ask further and immediately took her leave. These 3 seemingly ordinary old men hidden in the marketplace were actually father's most trusted right-hand men back then, the 3 vice-generals of the Iron Guard. After father passed away, they retired from the army, promising him that they would never enter a military camp again, unless the Giyu family was in trouble. Now, the Giyu family is in trouble. I sat quietly in the study for an hour. Xiao Muliang sent people to urge me twice, asking why I hadn't gone to the main hall for breakfast yet. I just had the maid reply that I was feeling unwell. He probably thought I was still throwing a tantrum over yesterday's events. He wouldn't have imagined that in this hour, I had already prepared to shake his entire foundation. Just after noon, Qing He led 3 elders with white hair and beards, but still strong physiques, quietly into the mansion through the back door. I led them into the secret chamber. When they saw me in a black uniform and the black jade marshal's seal on the table, the eyes of the 3 old men instantly burst with incredible light. This is indeed the marshal's seal. Deputy General Chen's voice was trembling. Young Marshal. The 3 exchanged glances with no further doubt, and knelt on one knee in unison, their voices booming. Your subordinates Chen Qing, Li Hu, and Zhang Lai pay respects to the young marshal. We welcome the young marshal back to your post. Generals, please rise. I personally stepped forward and helped each of them up, seeing them cry with excitement. My eyes welled up, but I forced myself to hold back my tears. Now is not the time to be weak. Before my father died, he entrusted the commander's seal to me and told me to give it to Xiao Muliang. I thought he could inherit my father's will and bring glory to the Gu family's name. But I never expected his wolfish ambition. bullying the Gu family as if we had no one left, to secretly keep a mistress in the northern borderlands and have an illegitimate child. Now he even wants to bring that bastard back to the manor, make him the heir and seize the Gu family's foundation. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was like weeping blood. After the three old generals heard this, every one of them flew into a rage. How outrageous! Zhang Lai, the most hot-tempered of them, slammed his fist on the table. That Xiao Muliang is just some low-born brat the old marshal single-handedly promoted. If the old marshal hadn't appreciated him, if he hadn't married you, young mistress, what the hell would he be? How dare he humiliate our Gu family like this? Young marshal, just give the order, and we will risk our old lives to get justice for you and the old marshal. This was the very sentence I was waiting for. I pushed that roster of commanders in front of them, my gaze as cold and sharp as a blade. I invited you three generals here today for only one order. The 100,000 soldiers of the Iron Guard army are all descendants of generations of loyal members of my Gyu family. They are my Gyu family's private army. They shed their blood and made sacrifices not to pave the way for some treacherous villain. I order you immediately take my general's seal and the roster and head to the capital's suburban barracks. All the children of the old Gu family troops recorded on the roster. Order them to immediately remove their armor, receive triple pay and provisions, disband on the spot, and return to their hometowns in glory. As for those later recruited by Xiao Muliang and not on this roster, ignore them all. My Gu family army does not sell its life for an unrighteous man. This order was like a bolt from the blue, disbanding the Iron Guard army that was the very foundation of Xiao Muliang's power and position. Once the Iron Guard army was disbanded, he, the general who pacifies the North, would become a general in name only through and through. The three old generals were stunned for a long while. Then they understood my intention. Nothing could be more like cutting the ground from under his feet. This general obeys. With a resolute light shining in their eyes, they took the general's seal and the roster, turned and strode away without a hint of hesitation. Watching their departing figures, I slowly closed my eyes. Xiao Muliang, you destroyed our home with your own hands, so I will destroy your nation with mine. Your nation is this 100,000-strong army, these brilliant military achievements, this supreme glory. From today on, all of this will turn to nothing. In the evening, Xiao Muliang finally finished handling all the matters concerning his precious son's entry into the manor. I heard from the servants that he personally set up a courtyard for that child, right next to our main one. He even gave the child a pet name, Cheng Zong, meaning to carry on the family line, as if he is afraid others wouldn't know the Xiao family now has a successor. After doing all this, he probably thought he had given me enough time to cool down, or perhaps he believed he had all the power in his hands, and no matter how much of a scene I made, I couldn't escape his grasp. Brimming with smug satisfaction, he pushed open my door. Yangqing, are you still angry? Yunzhao has been settled in. He is very well behaved. His words came to an abrupt halt, because what he saw was not a wife waiting for him to coax her, but an empty room. Inside the room, all my personal belongings, the jewelry he had given me, the scented sachets and purses I had embroidered myself, were all gone. The entire room was empty, leaving only the cold rosewood furniture. His face changed, his eyes quickly scanning the entire room, finally landing on the dressing table. A letter was placed there quietly. Next to it was an open, completely empty red sandalwood brocade box. He picked up the letter with a trembling hand on. It was my elegant yet sharp handwriting. For my husband, Mu Liang, to open. Let us part on good terms, and each find our own happiness. Our bond as husband and wife ends today. The commander's seal and military tally are returned to their rightful owner. From now on, we are separated by vast distances, never to meet again. The final words of Gu Yangqing. A letter of separation. Xiao Muliang stared fixedly at those words, his face instantly turning deathly pale. He whipped his head to look at the empty brocade box that was where he kept the commander's seal. He always thought I was just a woman of the inner quarters who knew nothing, but he never knew that the true ownership of this commander's seal has always been in my, Gu Yanqing's, hands alone. Gu Yanqing, he roared, his voice filled with the fury of being deceived and betrayed. How dare you? He charged out of the room like a madman, wanting to order the entire residence sealed to find me. However, just as he rushed into the courtyard, he saw the butler running over, stumbling and crawling, his face ashen. His voice trembled uncontrollably. "General, it is bad. Something terrible has happened." Xiao Muliang grabbed him by the collar, his eyes bloodshot. "Is it that my wife has run away?" "And no, that is not it, General," the butler said with a sob, almost collapsing to the ground. It is the capital's suburban garrison. Something's happened at the garrison. Someone from the palace came with a message, saying our 100,000 ironclad troops guarding the capital's suburbs vanished into thin air half a sheikhan ago." Vanished? As if struck by lightning, Xiao Muliang froze completely. "Yes," the butler cried out. "The 87,000 soldiers from the old Giyu family troops took their severance pay and provisions and left completely overnight. Now the entire Grand Camp only has the 10,000 plus new recruits you recruited later. Without a leader, they're in utter chaos. The Minister of War is furious, and His Majesty is also enraged. He has ordered you to enter the palace immediately to report." The 100,000 iron guards scattered. Xiao Muliang felt the world spin and darkness fell before his eyes. He let go of the butler, staggered back a few steps, and plopped down onto the cold, snowy ground. He finally understood what I took away was not just myself, not just that marshal's seal. I took away his everything, his military power, his status, his glory, the very foundation of his existence. He suddenly raised his head and looked towards the Grand Tutor's mansion next door, which had been silent for 5 years. His eyes filled with bloodshot veins and frantic regret. He had lost completely and utterly. And at this moment, I was standing at the highest point of the Grand Tutor's mansion, by the window, coldly watching the man in the snow who was lost and looked like a madman. The wind and snow blew at the hem of my clothes. I picked up a cup of warm wine, raised it to him from afar, and then downed it in one gulp. "Xiao Muliang, this game has only just begun."